This Monero Matteo video is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Safely store, send, receive, and trade your Monero on Cake Wallet on Android and iOS. All right, what's going on, everybody? Monero Matteo, welcome back. Good to be with you today. Do you notice a little something different? Oh, yes, I cut my hair, and I'm not wearing a hat. The reason I wore a hat, guys, because, my hair, when it gets to a certain length, it doesn't go down. That takes another, 2 years before I get the weight to do that. Otherwise, it just, puffs out like a chia pet. I undergo chiatization. So I had to get it cut. It was a lovely experience over at Great Clips. It was a great clip. And so we are feeling fresh today. The Oval Office, now you can see my oval head. The Oval Office, my brain is functioning pretty well today. Just came back from church. What feast was it today? I forgot what feast it was. I was just there. Shame on me for forgetting. But to my Orthodox friends, I hope that you enjoyed liturgy if you went today. But yes, we're going to be talking about an article which came out from the demonic site Slate. Our Luciferian friends over there wanted to talk some smack about Monero. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that article today. We're going to go through it. It's created a little bit of a buzz on the social media webs. And to me, it's just free advertising. They talk smack about it. But you know what? They made some pretty good points in its favor. And, they confirm that, yes, it's very private. It's very effective. And that's a problem, but not for us. Because when you're moving into an ever more tyrannical, totalitarian system, you want stuff that works. You want stuff which will keep you private and will not fail you when the going gets tough. So we're going to talk about these articles today. We're going to talk about some responses. So the first response that I saw to this was from Seth for Privacy. Go give him a follow. He's got some key text. He says, not going to link this awful article. I thought it was great. I thought it was lovely. We're going to definitely go through it. But he says, yet again, the Monero community is given no chance to respond/reject these asinine claims about the need for privacy within cryptocurrencies. Because basically they said it's only really used by criminals. We heard that from John Oliver. He said on his late night show, he's like, yeah, anyone who actually goes to buy Monero out there, you're just putting a spotlight on yourself and you're saying you're a criminal. It's like somebody going to Home Depot and buying a plastic tub the shape of a human body. It's ridiculous low-IQ stuff. But he says saddening and frustrating to see people use their platform to denigrate access to privacy. You can call it a platform. Slate is like a cesspit. That's what I would say. You can call it a platform. I don't think so. Who reads Slate? Simply put, Hayden believes that, and so he's basically saying, this can only benefit criminals. It serves no other purpose, blah, blah, blah. These coins are running up against the same problem as encryption and other technologies to protect privacies. It protects people who purvey hate, and it shelters criminals. Well, who's considered a criminal by this criminal state, which is now in charge? It's a criminal organization, the people who are in charge of our country and the people who are probably in charge of your country. And our ANCAP friends, they think that any government is a criminal organization. So the term criminal is a little bit subjective. But yeah, I think our administration is outright criminal. And you're going to see in these articles, these neo 1945 Germans, or 1940s Germans, we'll put it that way. You guys know who I'm talking about, right? NAZIs, those guys. Aren't they so bad? They're coming back to the surface. They've got the torches and they're walking around. Well, God forbid, right? If they got power and they started to do mass medical experimentations on people, wouldn't that just be really, really scary? That'd be wild, right? They started to inject experimental toxins into people and children. Oh man, that would be really scary stuff. But at least they're just some people on the internet for now using Monero. But nevertheless, he says here, I read this entire article, why no one from Monero is given the chance to respond to these blatantly anti-privacy comments. The article gets technical details right, but it is horribly off the mark for people who need to access privacy tools like Monero. Yeah, and then our friend Doug over on Monero Talk, give him a follow. He says it's almost like they want to trigger the Streisand effect. Yes, and we'll get to some pretty good points about that. And Untraceable says there's no such thing as bad publicity. I remember such articles being written about Bitcoin back in the day. Right, and now CNBC talks about Bitcoin every day. Makes you a little suspicious, doesn't it? But Justin German guy Aaron Hoffa, he says, Really, really frustrating article by Slate today, wherein Michael E. Hayden argues financial privacy serves no other purpose than to benefit criminals. This is an absurd notion that couldn't be further from the truth. So he says mass financial surveillance permits discrimination. He quotes some movie or TV show where banks denied mortgages to gay people. And then he talked about, the black community and how maybe they're going to be discriminated because of financial surveillance and things like this. Yeah, well, you could speculate on that stuff. Yeah, there's a historical lineage to that for sure in European Western countries, and from every country, by the way, across the world. There's always discrimination in finance. But, one relevant example of discrimination in finance happening right now, Justin, is discrimination of conservative Christians. Yes. Do you remember this story? How Lauren Witzke, a great Orthodox Christian, was debanked from Wells Fargo? Yes, there is a consistent trend here, and we're going to get to more examples of this. But yes, Lauren Witzke, she was a former Delaware GOP Senate candidate / hold the line PAC leader, and they seized her bank account. Lauren Witzke said, Wells Fargo has shut down my bank account, taking all of my money and leaving me with a zero balance. When I called Wells Fargo, they told me that it was a quote-unquote business decision and that they have the right to close my account at any time. Well, to some degree, that's true. Had I not been surrounded by friends in Florida, I would be completely stranded. Use this as a warning to get your money out of Wells Fargo. Yeah, Wells Fargo is a corrupt syndicate. The heads of Wells Fargo should be arrested. If you are a conservative, this is so evil. Yep. So conservatives are going to need this stuff in the future because conservative Christians in particular, are the main persecuted group around the world. And it's not reported on because the people who are in journalism are, for the most part, demons who are atheists, who don't care about Christians and actually seethe at the mouth when they see Christians being persecuted. But that is what's going on. If you're looking for a persecuted group to go out and defend and talk about, it's Christians. It's conservatives. They're being deplatformed everywhere. They're being disenfranchised with mass migration from people coming from communist, socialist countries into their country. And by the way, conservative Christians, for the most part, are the biggest voting bloc against the uniparty takeover by the Democratic Party, i.e. the communists. And, if you're anything to the left, if you're anything to the right of Chairman Mao, you're going to be called alt-right. You're going to be called, perhaps a terrorista by the administration. We talked about that in prior videos. But again, this all makes Monero very, very important. And we'll get to that in this article coming up here. Another example, and guys, remember this is important intel, important information. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe if you like this stuff. We don't talk about this particular stuff too much. We mainly keep it to the tech. We mainly keep it to the functionality of Monero, the macro case for it, which we've made in an astounding case. I mean, with all the videos we've made, we've probably made like 1,000 bullish arguments for this stuff. And they're going to say in this article, it's a poor investment. Well, he doesn't watch our channel, unfortunately. It's a great investment, but I'm not going to give investment advice. I'm talking to myself mainly. But I don't own Monero. Who owns Monero? I just bought a boat with it. Anyways, Laura Loomer blacklisted from payment processor Stripe. So Stripe, I believe, had integrated Bitcoin into payments. So let's look this up. I think it's the same company. Stripe, Bitcoin. Yeah. Or no, they're ending Bitcoin support. Is that what they said? So maybe it's a different company. I don't know. They gave up on Bitcoin and blockchain. I thought this was a different company. I thought Stripe was another company which was working with the El Salvador government to integrate Lightning network payments, but maybe I was wrong. Laura Loomer blacklisted from payment processor Stripe, and she was also kicked off Venmo and PayPal. So she's being persecuted right now. And she's not a Christian, she's Jewish, but she is a conservative for sure. And she has protested Twitter because she was kicked off Twitter as well. She was also kicked off Facebook. She was kicked off Instagram, Uber, and Lyft. So you don't need to look far for these people who are being persecuted, but there are certain segments of the population who, for political reasons, don't want to protect these people, even though their rights are at stake. And when their rights are at stake, everyone's rights are at stake, right? We should be protecting everybody's rights. But everything is political now, unfortunately. And I'm not saying that everybody on the left is unaware or is aware of this and they're just ignoring it, although I would imagine a certain percentage of them are just ignoring this because they just hate conservatives and they are the real hate group. But it could be they're unaware innocently, and so I don't want to cast judgments. But yeah, I mean, this is really happening. And for the most part, these are the people who need Monero the most. Okay, if you want to run a campaign, and she was running for Congress in Florida in 2020. So if you want to run a campaign, Monero is going to be useful, right? Because if people figure out who is donating to campaigns, and this has happened before. I think this is what happened with Trump, actually. There were a lot of donators who were doxxed, their financial records released, and then people went to go dox those people who had donated to Trump's campaign. And this has happened with other conservative campaigns as well. If you donate to conservatives and you don't use private money, then people could like dox you on the internet, right? And maybe they find out where you live. I mean, look at Tucker Carlson. He had mobs showing up to his house when he wasn't even there. It was just his wife and kids, and they had to hide in the closet because they were worried people were going to break into their house and jack him up, dude. I mean, this is a severe concern. Now, he's on the news. He's not some anonymous donor. But a lot of people have been doxxed because they've donated to campaigns in not a private way. And the people out there nowadays are very partisan. They're very caught up in hysteria. And so it is a dangerous time to have your money involved in political measures and have it not be private. And I think Monero has a great use for that. So let me just comment on that. And this is right and left, by the way, even though you're in much more danger if you're on the right than you are on the left. Everybody knows that. So Stripe also banned President Trump, right? So even the President of the United States is getting banned and deplatformed from financial platforms. So that is something to note. Financial blacklisting, and by the way, this is Breitbart.com. Financial blacklisting against conservatives is on the rise. Numerous conservative organizations and individuals have been cut off from using online payment services and funding platforms, including the free speech social network Gab. Even liberal organizations have raised alarm about this trend. So there are some good liberal organizations going out there to talk about this stuff, which is good. Is Michael Hayden from the SPLC, who we're about to get to, talking about this? No. And in fact, the people who are being forced into Monero because of this rise of financial blacklisting, no, he wants to call them supremacists. And of course, the typical insults. But nevertheless, the Electronic Frontier Foundation warned in 2018 that banks and payment processors were becoming de facto internet censors. Interesting. And we've talked about Bitcoin censorship a little bit here on the channel. That seems to be something which is coming that nobody's paying attention to. So I'll link a video up somewhere here. We've made a couple videos on that. I would recommend the Bitcoin blacklisting and Bitcoin mining ban in Europe, or proof of work mining ban in Europe. I would go check out the American Bitcoin Rush. We talk about how the Bitcoin hash rate could get over 50% in the United States, and with ESG, social and governmental compliance measures being introduced to a lot of these corporate Bitcoin mining operations, Bitcoin addresses and Bitcoins could become censored by OFAC and perhaps other agencies which come to the fore. I mean, they just came out with a crypto watch regulatory agency or something like this. There is now a force in the DOJ, which is specifically oriented towards cryptocurrency. So maybe they get involved. But yeah, that's something to note as well. Again, Monero is super key for that. Because it can't be censored, it's very decentralized, it's private. Much of the trend is driven by activist journalism in the mainstream media. Glenn Greenwald recently condemned USA Today for engaging in this behavior after the newspaper pressured PayPal into suspending services to the legal defense funds of individuals facing felony charges from the January 6th event. Yeah, so that's crazy. And as we talked about before, like, are journals like the USA Today going to comment on conservative or Christian persecution in the world? No, they're going to make it worse. Like, they're not going to even stick up for these people, right? And that's going to entice the banks to get in on this stuff because they're very much pressured by media attention. So That's something to note. So this is Slate.com. This is where we're going to be reading the article today. Some of you have heard about this website. It's somewhat of a leftist website, and you can kind of tell that. Hold on. There is a particular article they had here that I wanted to point out to you guys, but maybe it's not here. Hold on. It was like how Jesus ruined somebody's life or something like this. I forgot what it was. Hold on. I gotta find this just so you guys can understand. Maybe I'll like cut to it or something. Guys, so I found the article. They totally changed the title. At first it was How Jesus on a Tortilla Ruined Maria's Life. And she's got like a pensive face here. She's very upset about Jesus being on her burnt toast. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. I was going to say, this is what you can expect from Slate. But nevertheless, somebody had rationally told them it was a bad title. Nevertheless, here is their tweet from today about their article. Traditional cryptocurrencies aren't as untraceable as you might think. Enter privacy coins. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. Yes, they aren't as untraceable as you might think. Again, the word is getting out. Isn't this fantastic? Isn't this fantastic? And here's NAM coming to the rescue. We love NAM. Alt-right criminals, drug dealers, racists, neo-1940s Germans. Did the author miss any woke buzzwords? But he totally forgot to mention Monero is used by regular everyday people to buy plane tickets, hotel bookings, VPN subscriptions, blah, 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 blah. Fire the clown who wrote this. Yes. I use Monero almost daily to pay for travel, donate to pro-privacy and floss organizations, fund development of Monero and other privacy-preserving tools, and to pay for many goods and services. It's a shame you chose to blatantly ignore the thousands like me and give us no comment. True. And here is another meme from our Monero bro, Monero Cage. Criminals trust not Bitcoin, Monero, and so can you. Lovely. Yeah, so they don't even realize they just gave it a huge advertisement. Lovely. Let me see if I can tack on with my thoughts. The Bitcoin competitor beloved by the alt-right and the criminals. Now, guys, we're also going to learn a little bit about propaganda today. The alt-right. When's the last time you even heard about the alt-right? Now, I don't know. Now, I've met people in the alt-right. I'm not in the alt-right. I'm not saying that I am in the alt-right. I've met them, though. And they're like, yeah, the alt-right doesn't even exist. We don't even know what that is. Like, it's some label which is put on us for having a certain set of ideas, for being involved in certain parts of the internet, and we got tacked on with being alt-right when we're just conservative. And they got tagged into all this. And yeah, I've heard some pretty bad things about some leaders of the quote-unquote alt-right. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to get the Eye of Sauron, which is going to be on me more than it already is because I'm talking about this stuff. But yeah, the people who were in charge of the quote-unquote alt-right, yeah, there were some pretty bad dudes, man. They were really some bad dudes from what I hear. But look, the alt-right being used as a label against conservatives and people who, just kind of like America being kind of what it was back in the 1950s, like that's not exactly nice. That's not honest. And criminals. So you're getting people on the right tagged in with criminals here. So that's just something to note. Let's read the article. Let's see what's going on. This is by Jake Dean. Thank you, Jake, for the advertisement. Do you remember that Florida teenager who managed to simultaneously hack the Twitter accounts of Kim Kardashian, Barack Obama, and Uber and Elon Musk in an attempt to scam people out of Bitcoin in 2020? I do. That was pretty funny. Law enforcement officers analyzed the blockchain ledger of anonymized Bitcoin transactions and were able to locate the hacker who ended up behind bars. Yes. That's why you don't want to use Bitcoin, especially if you're doing stuff like that. Not a good idea. And Kevin Wad made a video about the dark web, and he was talking about how one single Bitcoin transaction took down an entire marketplace because they were able to route stuff and they were able to pick up certain information from that one transaction that led to them finding the person who was running this website where hundreds of millions of dollars of commerce was being done. So, yeah, a lot of holes in Bitcoin's privacy. And I hear from people, yeah, well, when the Lightning Network comes on board with Tor, haven't you heard about Taproot? I mean, these are laughable things. Now, the Lightning Network with Tor, that's better, certainly, than using the base blockchain, but it's still not Monero. It's still not Monero. To most people, it might seem impossible to track transactions through Bitcoin, but that's not really the case. Let's go, Slate. Let's go. The FBI's recovery of Bitcoins paid during the Colonial Pipeline ransomware, which, by the way, was just unbelievable. I can't believe that even happened. Attack demonstrates that Bitcoin isn't as untraceable as you might think, so users, particularly criminals and members of fringe far-right groups, hoping to avoid the regulatory eye, have turned to a new kind of cryptocurrency, privacy coins. The regulatory eye, otherwise known as the eye of Sauron, right? To understand their increasing popularity, it is important to highlight how privacy coins can operate differently from other kinds of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. So we've talked about a lot of this stuff here on the channel. We don't need to go back over this. It's talking about KYC. It's talking about how they can track your Bitcoin going off the exchange. Major crypto exchanges like Coinbase use KYC verification to comply with anti-money laundering regulations, and Bitcoin address information from Coinbase was one tool authorities used to track down the perpetrators of the Twitter hack. Let's go. Yeah. God, I just love all these bullish cases for Monero going on here. Privacy coins, the largest of which is called Monero, work to avoid identification and verification by focusing on improved anonymity and security in payments. Yes, sir. Yeah, we know that stuff. Work from Bitcoin. Monero accomplishes this through two key methods: stealth addresses and ring signatures. Correct. We've talked about that. This level of anonymity has made Monero the coin of choice for ransomware groups like the Russian Tide. Now we're getting tied into Russians, right? So alt-right, okay, criminals, Russians. The only thing we're missing here is demons, but when you have demons writing the article, they don't want to compromise themselves, right? They probably use Monero too. Jonathan and Diane TB, the U.S. couple who allegedly tried to sell nuclear secrets to foreign countries, asked undercover officers to pay them in Monero due to worries that Bitcoin would be trackable. Let's go. That's right. And we did a video on that too. And they didn't get caught because Monero is traceable, contrary to what some people, for whatever reason, thought. It's because they knew where the drop zone was, and they met him there. So, but yeah, I mean, doesn't that just go to tell you how much people trust this stuff? People engaging in high wire activity, like they trust this stuff to do things which are life threatening, right? That's the hallmark of a pretty reliable technology. So now we're getting to the interesting part, right? Now we're getting to the supremacists, the white supremes. The white taco supremes in the United States were also early adopters of the currency. Take, for example, this guy. And yeah, they're talking about all of these unfortunate occurrences. Megan Squire, a professor of computer science at Elon University, said that she knew of at least two Monero addresses Ray was using when I interviewed her in late July. However, given the anonymity of the Monero ledger, it is still rather difficult to track Ray's actions and transactions on the platform, especially because each transaction is sent on the platform and it is split into multiple anonymized transfers of different values. Yeah, Christopher Cantwell, we've heard about him a little bit. He kind of went off the deep end a little bit, didn't he? He used to be a libertarian, I thought, and then I think he became like, fascist or something. He previously pleaded guilty to committing assault. No bueno. And I guess he was using Monero, not Bitcoin. Thomas Sowell, not The Economist, I guess. An Australian neo-1940s German, has raised funds in Monero for his legal defense against assault charges. Right, and that makes sense, right? Because if you donate to this guy through like GoFundMe or something like this, which is another leftist organization, which, by the way, didn't allow Kyle Rittenhouse, I guess, to raise money for his legal defense fund. This has been the case for many other people. Would you trust your information with that organization? Would you trust your information with Bitcoin? I mean, there have been, I think this happened with Luke Smith. I think there was a Bitcoin that he sent to somebody, and that somebody sent Bitcoin to Nick Fuentes. And then they were able to trace it back to Luke, and Luke got doxxed, and Luke got tied into all of this stuff. I forgot what article I was reading on that. I wish I had it pulled up, but yeah, you don't want to do Bitcoin either. You don't want to do a public blockchain when you're going to support people like this, which I'm not saying, is the best idea, although I don't know what his particular case is. But look, I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't support any particular people. I'm saying that if a particular person that you do support has the mob against them, and we do live in a mob society, by the way, if you haven't noticed, and the mob is taking control over the government, well, you're not going to want to have yourself outed in supporting these people. So yeah, it makes sense to use Monero. Makes total sense. The racist and homophobic buzzwords French website owned by American extremist David Johnson Jr. So yeah, we have 3 buzzwords here. Racist, buzzword 2, homophobic, which homophobic is just weird, right? It's just a weird word. Like Islamophobic, homophobic, like a phobia is a fear. I don't think that 90% of the people who are quote-unquote homophobic, or at least classified that way, are afraid of gay people. It's just a weird word to use. And then extremist, right? Extremist. So there are your buzzwords there. Just trying to teach you how to identify propaganda. Democrat-y participative. Offensive enough to be banned by French courts in 2018. That's not that offensive. Offensive enough, right? To be banned by French courts. Okay. What's the threshold for that? Saying that Chairman Mao was not a great chairman? Calling him Chairman Meow. Maybe that's offensive to them. Who knows? He exclusively accepts Monero. This site advises its readers that it is against... Oh, are we allowed to say this on YouTube? Are we allowed to say this on YouTube? Well, we'll just have you guys read that. And then it's against lies from a particular group of people. And then it asks its readers to donate using the cryptocurrency in support, as Frontline and the Associated Press have reported. So too does the Nordic resistance movement. That sounds fun. I like the sound of that. The Nordic resistance movement. Is that... I know that there's like a movement in Norway where like people get together and they've got like their flags and they've got their big beers. That's pretty rocking. I like that. Chapters of the Proud Boys and more. Yep. But it's not just the groups themselves embracing privacy coins. Yes. I mean, it's also people baking cookies. It's also people donating to open source software. It's also people like me who, take donations. And I don't really buy anything else with Monero. Not yet, anyway. But there are a lot of websites that we've talked about here on our Accelerating Monero Adoption video, where you can buy coffee for Monero. You can buy shoes. You can buy gold with Monero. That's starting to happen. So it's not just these fringe movements. I mean, they're fringe not only in the sense of their politics, but they're fringe in the sense that they consist of a very, very, very small percentage of the population using Monero. Very small. And the fact that an entire article is written about them just goes to show you that, yeah, it's just a hit piece. It's just a hit piece. They're using all these buzzwords, racist and homophobia and blah, 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 right? So, privacy coins also allow non-activists to hide their financial support. Yeah, as we talked about. So that's great. I think that's a really good thing. Because you should be able to support people without having to have the mob show up to your door, which happens. Senior investigative reporter at the SPLC. Yeah, hate organization in and of itself. They should be banned. They should be arrested. Just my personal opinion, that Monero allows for followers of Ray or other neo-Nazis, well, maybe not arrested. Let me just relax, okay? Just put under scrutiny and investigation. Did I say that word? Neo 1945 German. Okay. To transfer them money without ever having to put their name to the fact that they gave. Hayden also notes that it could provide bad faith actors from other countries like Russia. Ooh, the Ruskies are back here. Again, propaganda, just picking up on it. They're trying to get you to associate Monero with other groups that the media has been grooming you to dislike. I mean, Russia does have faults, certainly, but for the most part, they're a conservative Christian nation. And you're supposed to believe that they're, for whatever reason, the enemy of the United States. Now, not to get into geopolitics, but it would have been great to ally with Russia against communist China, which wants to take over the world and implement like some new AI digital sponsored scientific dystopia dictatorship. But yeah, I mean, we didn't do that. We just hated them for whatever reason. But they are tying Russia into Monero now, just like they're tying everybody else like this into Monero, which doesn't make sense. I mean, you have literally Granny selling cookies out there for Monero. Like, she has nothing to do with any of these groups. So let's see here. Simply put, Hayden believes that this total obfuscation of money for any trade can really only benefit criminals. So, oh goodness. Oh my goodness. That doesn't even make sense based on what you just said. It literally doesn't make sense. So the people who are giving the money to these people that he calls criminals, they think that they can benefit from this. Does that mean that they too are also criminals? Like, the logic is so low IQ here, I can't even believe it is in this article. Like, how do you even print this? Do you not follow up with questions and say, hey, is it a crime to donate to somebody's defense fund before they are confirmed guilty? Is it a crime to be charged with a crime? Is it a crime to appear before a court before you have been handed a verdict? Like, what is going on here? This is just, I mean, this guy talks about, hate groups. This is just hateful, low IQ language at a particular group he doesn't like, who use a particular neutral technology, which has no political or any, which has no association with anything beyond its technology, or at least it shouldn't. It's just a tool. It's just ridiculous stuff. Let's see here. Where was I? In particular, Monero is not a good investment. Oh, now he's giving investment advice. Yes, okay. Love it. As Hayden put it, Monero is not a good currency to own. Well, maybe because you work for the SPLC and nobody's coming after you, but it might be good for some of us who want to undergo Operation Exodus and leave the system and not have the system come after us for our belief systems. It is extraordinarily volatile. The value of Monero has ranged from a low of $100 to $500. Yeah, it's going to go nuclear. Forget about this guy. Doesn't understand what he's talking about. Sure, all cryptos are relatively volatile, but over the last 80 days, Monero's experience... Like, why are you giving investment advice, dude? You're like some dude at the SPLC. Are you a trader? I'm sure he's probably in Dogecoin. But even if you get past this, Hayden notes that the currency is hard to get. It's not that hard to get. Again, low IQ showing here. It's not hard to get, guys. And it's relatively hard to get to other cryptocurrencies because, exchanges like Coinbase don't list this stuff. You can't really buy it with cash. Although we talked about yesterday how you can buy it with cash on Gardarian.com, I think. So you can do that. You can do local Monero. You can buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, and then you could take it out to a place like TradeOgre or KuCoin and then buy it there. I mean, you can buy it pretty much with cash on Cake Wallet. I mean, you could buy Bitcoin with cash on Cake Wallet, and then you can flip it into Monero or Litecoin. It's not that hard. But again, this is just FUD. This whole article is just FUD, right? Even if you get past this, Hayden notes the currency is hard to get, as the exchanges selling it often are niche and dodgy. Literally, it takes 5 seconds to buy this stuff, guys. Literally, it takes 5 seconds. It's not hard. You don't just find Monero on Coinbase. No, you don't. You gotta fire an extra neuron or two, and many of the other cryptocurrency exchanges. Well, Kraken, you can buy it. You can buy it on Kraken, right? So its real appeal is to those who want to keep their transactions secret, or just have fungible currency. That's not mentioned anywhere in this article. Maybe he doesn't understand that. But yeah, you need privacy to be inherent to money in order for it to be actually useful as a currency. And we've talked about that many, many times. It's not just for having secret transactions. It's for having every single unit of value equal to each other. And if you can see the history of those units of value, then you can come up with subjective interpretations as to what those coins are valued at based on their histories. And that makes it so that all the units of value don't equal each other on the base level, which means the accounting system which the currency is supposed to comprise doesn't work. So you need privacy for money. It's inherently needed, which is why I struggle with Bitcoin being considered money. You can call it an asset. You can call it digital scarce assets. Some people call it digital gold. That doesn't work either. We've talked about that. But it's not money. It's not money. Maybe you could barter with it, but it's not money. Government organizations have certainly struggled to deal with the privacy coin. For instance, in September 2020, the IRS offered up to $625,000 for anyone who could crack Monero and track payments on the service. There is some room to believe that technologists will be able to better track payments in the future. Here we go. I'm sure Cypher Trace is about to make an entrance. Yep, here we go. For example, analytics firms like CipherTrace released a Monero tracing tool. Yeah, they can't do it. Developed with Department of Homeland Security funding. Yep, so it's just a scam, which costs $16,000 per user for access. Moreover, many researchers have claimed that the tool doesn't actually work. It doesn't. So, yeah, it is just a scam of the government. Kind of like Tesla, right? Unfortunately, oh, goodness, man. I didn't get much sleep last night. Please forgive me. Unfortunately, the task of tracing will be made harder by the recent announcement of atomic swaps. Yep, love it. We've talked about that before, too. Go check out our Taproot Bitcoin update video. We talk a little bit about atomic swaps. I believe that's the video anyway, where we're working on atomic swaps for Monero to Ethereum, Bitcoin to Monero, and now that Bitcoin has Taproot, which makes it so that all the transactions look like any other transaction, like an atomic swap transaction, a Lightning Network upload transaction, a transaction with your neighbor. Those all look roughly the same on the script level. And so people can do atomic swaps without anyone thinking that they're doing the atomic swap. They're just doing a transaction, which is really helpful for people in Bitcoin, right? So that's opening up. There's work being done on that. Havana is in the works. And yeah, that's going to open up an entire other universe for Monero. Very, very bullish. Maybe the guy who said it's not a good investment doesn't understand this, but he is missing out. He's missing out. I'm sure he bought a bag after reading this article. I mean, anyone who reads this article and it's just like, yeah, I don't know about Monero then. Well, come on. This is the best advertisement I've ever seen for Monero. I mean, look. All the buzzwords you see in here, racist, homophobic, white taco supreme, right? These are all the things that Trump was called throughout the entire 4-year presidency. And he got another 80 million votes in 2020. He got another 80 million votes. So this guy who can be lumped into this unfortunate group here, or whatever they're calling, they're opening Monero up to a market of 80 million people right now. Because almost nobody believes anymore the value that these buzzwords have. Nobody's afraid of being called any of these things anymore, or at least you shouldn't be, because it's just meant to guilt trip you. It's just meant to be abusive language to get you back in line and to accept an ever more dystopian society that they're bringing in upon you, and the disenfranchisement which is happening of you. It's all meant to keep you in an abusive state, or an abused state. So people are going to look at this and going to be like, oh man, maybe I should buy this stuff just to give it to these people at Slate. You know what I mean? Just so I can get off the system, because I don't like these people either. I don't want them to track what I'm doing with my money, right? So to me, this is a beautiful article. I love it. It's a great piece of work from Slate. But anyways, where was I? So atomic swaps between Monero and Bitcoin will allow crypto holders to exchange the two coins without need for a third-party exchange or service, eliminating one of the easiest entry points in identifying Monero transactions. Right, which is the exchanges, which is fantastic. Nefarious crypto miners have also continued to go to elaborate lengths to mine it. At the beginning of September, this work included exploiting a vulnerability. Now, I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm not into mining. Maybe you guys are a little bit more wise to this. I'd appreciate your thoughts. Please let me know. Meanwhile, Monero isn't the only privacy coin quickly establishing itself. Darrow, which we've talked about, we have a great video on Darrow if you want to go check that out, has grown wildly over this last year. They are wanting to do private smart contracts. They use homomorphic encryption, which is really advanced technology, especially in the realm of cryptocurrency. That's great. And the coin Verge, no relation to the tech news site, has been accepted for anonymous payments. Well, but Verge is not that anonymous. I mean, they're putting Verge addresses on OFAC blacklists. Well, they actually started to put Monero addresses too on OFAC blacklists, but nobody takes that seriously. has been accepted for anonymous payments on, oh, that's great, Adult Entertainment Hub since 2018. And yes, you can argue that there are legal and moral reasons to use a privacy coin. Now, why would the author put this sentence, just a detail I want you guys to note, why would the author put this sentence not only in the same paragraph, but directly after a sentence which says that you can use privacy coins as a form of payment for Adult Entertainment Hub? Like, whatever these people do over here at this website, I assure you, is worse than anything anybody up here is doing for whatever nefarious things that they're doing or whatever people think they're doing. Like, everyone at this website should be arrested, 100%. And these people at this website that maybe they're linking to morality and legality for some reason in the same paragraph, maybe it's just bad writing, but these people have done more damage than any of these people up here, any of these people, to our society. I mean, it should be shut down. And I do see this commentary a little bit on Monero forums. We're like, oh, isn't it great that we can use Monero now for payment on this website? It's just like, dude, no. Stop this degeneracy. It should be shut down. And look. We are into Monero, okay? We love Monero being a private, fungible currency. But that has no relation to anything involving dark net activity, which is illegal, to anything involving stuff on this website. And I'm talking about our channel here, which is a small subset of, I guess, what you could call the quote-unquote Monero community, which I don't want to be a part of, to some degree. I mean, I've made a lot of friends in the Monero community, but, just, we won't talk about that now. I've made a video on that for the Patreons, but yeah. I mean, we want to stay away from anything degenerate. And I don't like Monero being associated with degeneracy. I don't like Monero being associated with dark markets where you can buy goods that hurt you and kill your soul. Like, I don't like that at all. And I want to bring a different perspective to Monero, which says, you know what? Christians who don't like to be on the dark web, people who believe in our country and who believe in families, who believe in good things and morality to change the world, like, they like Monero too. We want a functional society of good people and wholesome families and good communities, strong communities that go to church. Like, we like Monero. We don't need to have it associated with everything in this article, and especially this stuff right here. So I just want to make that comment real quick. But these coins are running up against some of the same problems of encryption and other technologies to provide privacy. They can't allow for dissidents, activists, and people from marginalized communities to stay safe without also sheltering criminals and purveyors of hate. Okay, let me just break this down. The marginalized communities are the people purported to be doing this, purveying hate. Like, that's what Christians hear all the time. That's what conservatives hear all the time. Those are the marginalized communities. Those are the people being marginalized by people like this, by the government, by social media companies, by the media, right? And there are other marginalized communities, for sure. But those are the main ones who need sheltering. And I'm not saying criminals need sheltering either. But yeah, that's going to happen. That does happen. Dissidents and activists. Lauren Witzke, Laura Loomer are dissidents and activists. And you know what people also call them? They also call them purveyors of hate, right? So what they're saying here is only certain dissidents and activists should use Monero. Not people who are actually going to be endangered by the government. Not people who are actually in danger of doxing. Not people who are actually in danger of the media and from Antifa mobs and from other violent political partisans who are willing to hurt people because they're not on their political side. Those people, according to Slate, should not be allowed to use Monero. But yeah, if you are protesting for equal rights and trans rights and things like this, yeah, you should use Monero. But what's the purpose? Who's going to go after you? Really? Let's think logically. Who is really going to go after you for protesting? We should increase the size of the government to control the climate of the planet. Really? You feel a need to use Monero for that? Who's going to come after you? What government are you protesting against that's going to be against you? Right. Just my thoughts on this, my personal opinions. And it's those criminals and purveyors of hate that seem to be embracing this particular coin the most. Oh my gosh. Such crap, man. Such crap. Like, let's look this up right now. All right, so check this out. I'm on the Monero directory at cryptwork.com. So, guys, you can get web hosting services. You can bet on sports. You can do other web stuff, rock and block. All these things are a little too technical for me, but let's look at this. You can gamble, which, again, I don't recommend. You can play games with your Monero, which is cool. You can shop for CBD products. You can buy books, art, food and drink. I mean, look, this is cool, right? You can buy jerky and honey and sodas and coffee. So we could go on and on and on, but the claim here that this stuff is mainly used by criminals and purveyors of hate, I mean, that is just so incorrect. That is so incorrect. And it's a shame that, again, nobody from Monero was consulted on this. They just wanted to do a hit piece. And who knows if regulation is going to be coming against this stuff. Maybe they're laying the groundwork. Maybe this is like the initial barrage to soften the ground for the invasion, right? Who knows what this is? But, yeah, let's go full screen here. I know that we made more controversial claims in this video than we usually do. I don't care. These are just my thoughts. I in no way represent Monero in making these statements, but I think that this was an unfortunate article which did not fairly represent what is a neutral technology, which is a technology which is used to be money, online digital money. And look, again, if it's not private, then it's not fungible, and it's not money. And everything that is coming against Monero from John Oliver, from Slate, it could be they are actually worried about this particular coin being the coin which makes it so that, yeah, they lose control over your money. They lose control over your life, because that's how they've been able to get control over your life. They've been able to take control over the money. They've been able to tax you more and more, which we're going to make videos about. They've been able to use that money to bring in a system which is against your interests. And now they're getting to the final stages where they want your bank account set up at the Fed, like somebody who is recommended for the Office of Comptroller and Currency, somebody who went to the University of Moscow, like a literal communist, could be going in there and making these recommendations where we don't have a bank account anymore. We have to have a bank account at the Federal Reserve. They have total control over our money. They can track our money. They can see who we spend our money with. They can make it so that other people are considered essential and not essential. This is a problem. And now they want to introduce, health passports, and you can't get into certain stores unless you have the health passport. I mean, you want to talk about use case. You want to talk about people who this privacy coin appeals to. How about people who don't want to go on with the mark of the beast system? How about people who want to be able to shop for basic essentials like food and clothing without having to get medical experiments done on them? Is that okay? Does that make sense? So people in like Lithuania need this stuff. Australia, they need this stuff. Increasingly in more and more countries. Germany's starting to go down the same path. Austria's starting to go down the same path. We're entering an era now where the people who are left on the financial system are people who are totally submitted to this new evil world order. And we're not going to go along with it. We're exiting the system, Operation Exodus, and we are not going to allow these people to take control over our money, to take control over our lives, and to destroy our faith in something that is higher than them, which is God. So with that said, I hope that you enjoyed our analysis of this article. I hope that you learned something today. If you did, please like the video. Please subscribe. More stuff coming. Monero Matteo. Check out the social media links below. Check out the donation address below for our lovely private cryptocurrencies, which we're not going to use to any criminal degree or to purvey hate of any kind. We love everybody. Jesus Christ is with us. And with that said, we'll see you next time. Have a great one. God bless.